Yeah, fair enough. I mean, what else can I say on top of what I've already said? I went to the Stop the War Coalition on the 21st of June. I went to the Stop the War Coalition on the 21st of June, and then about a week later, on the 1st of July, I get 3 knocks on the door, 3 police officers, two psychiatrists, a social worker, and my community psychiatric nurse are at the door, and they produce something called the Section 135 warrant. And the Section 135 warrant enables them to basically section me off using force if necessary. So basically, I've been taken away from my home address against my will, and ostensibly the reasons that they're giving are A, I was missing medications, and B, that I've been basically violent, or accusations of violence or accusations of assaults that I've been carrying out against other people. Basically, my family are saying that I've been making threats against them and I've been violent against them, and those are the major reasons for why they sectioned me off. Plus, there was also stuff that I did back in 2011, and they released me from my section back in 2011. And I already ended up spending basically 6 months in a psychiatric hospital, and about, I would say, maybe 1 or 2 years of my life basically being moved around from post-psychiatric hospital accommodation until I eventually found my way back into my own flat.
Yeah, and that's where me and you picked up, I think, shortly after you.
But that's where you and me met. When I moved into the Carlton area, there's a place called Carlton View in London.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I eventually found a flat back in January or February 2013. So from April to 2000 and from April 2011 to about January 2012, I was basically in the Newsom Centre. Then from January 2012 to about roughly September 2012, I was in a place called Bewley Croft. And then after Bewley Croft, I ended up being moved. No, I was in a place called the Beaches.
That's right.
After the Beaches, I ended up being moved to Bewley Croft, and then in January or February of 2013, I ended up finding my own flat in Carlton View, or the Carltons area of Little London. And basically, what's happening to me now is, I've basically been under section now for 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
I've been under section without any hospital managers hearing and without any tribunal hearing for 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
For Section 3 of the Mental Health Act.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's.
And I've got a tribunal coming up in about over a week's time. I don't know what's going to happen during that tribunal. I don't know what's going to be said during that tribunal. But there's basically been some talk. Somebody, Dr. Leung, my responsible clinician, has basically been talking about the possibility that I could end up being placed into a medium secure facility called Newton Lodge,
mm-hmm.
Wakefield, and that there are some plans to keep me there for 2 years. And all of this, 2 years of my life lost in a medium secure facility in Wakefield called Newton Lodge, 2 years of my life lost, and I've not committed any offence, nor have I even been, I've not committed any offence, and nor have I even been accused of planning to commit an offence. So 2 years is a long time to spend in a place like Newton Lodge.
Yeah, and what they're doing is they seem to be drawing heavily on the Stop the War Coalition. Well, they don't refer to that. What they refer to is the royal family's wedding, right? And they keep to refer.
Back in 2011, I went to a Stop the War Coalition demo, and they were basically saying that because I'm a South Asian or because I'm Asian of Asian appearance, I'm Indian. So because of my South Asian appearance, they were saying that I was like a terrorist. I fitted a terrorist profile just because I'm an ethnic minority.
Yeah, you seem to have been singled out there. I think so. They keep referring heavily to that, and I know there were 1 or 2 issues as well that were.
I was mentally ill at the time, so mm-hmm. They did find. So I was carrying quite a bit of stuff. Obviously no bombs and obviously no explosives, but I was carrying quite a bit of stuff: a laptop, some hard disks, some mobile phones. And a significant amount of cash or money. I was basically carrying this stuff with me when I was in London, and at the time I was mentally unwell. I was suffering from a nervous breakdown, and my mental health was bad. So at the time, I was basically found with all these things. But none of the vast majority of the stuff I had, there was nothing illegal on it. There was nothing illegal about it. There was only I got convicted for was possession of a bladed article because I had a kitchen knife on the inside. I was carrying a kitchen knife.
Yeah. Okay.
Kitchen knife, and maybe even I think there was some talk about a screwdriver. So that, yes, basically I got 2 counts of possession of a bladed article in a public place.
Right. Okay.
And then there was some involvement of counter-terrorism or the anti-terrorist branch because they were worried about what I was carrying. They were saying that I had. They were saying that I was carrying like a manual on bomb making, or that I had bomb making materials on my computer, and that I basically deny.
Yeah. Okay, so you totally deny all allegations of carrying like a bomb.
I had scientific information because I have an automated website download program. So I had scientific information. I was basically downloading scientific information off the internet. But guess what? It's freedom of information.
Yeah.
The internet's all about freedom of information. We live in a technologically or scientifically complex society. I should be allowed to download what information I was going to. I never made any plans whatsoever to bomb anybody. Obviously, I've not made any plans to carry out any terrorist attack, but as soon as basically an Asian male gets found near Downing Street with a bladed article, they basically call him the anti-terrorist or counter-terrorist squad.
Yeah. They've totally blown things out of proportion. I mean, I know they may well have grounds to like ask a few questions or what have you, but what happened after that seems to be totally out of proportion.
Anyway, back in 2012, I was discharged from my section. So back in either December 2011 or January 2012, I was discharged from my section. Back then, I don't know what section it was. I think it was a section. It must have been a section 37 or section 41, but I was discharged from my section, and now I'm back again. Anyway, as of 2014, they're basically bringing up all this history of what I did back in 2011, but even back in 2011, they already discharged me, knowing what I was carrying with me in London back in 2011. So now we're in 2014, and the bottom line is this. They have no hard evidence, they've got no evidence whatsoever of any wrongdoing, of my having assaulted anybody or being a threat to the safety of myself or other people since 2011. So the last time I had any interaction with the police was back in 2011, and since 2012 and 2013, I've kept my nose absolutely clean. I've not had any interactions with the police. I've not had any interactions. I've basically been on good behaviour.
Yeah.
So I've not done anything wrong. So the sectioned me off in 2014, and the reason they're sectioning me off in 2014 is because there are hearsay and circumstantial accusations levelled against me by my family.
I understand.
The fact that I've been assaulting my family or treating my family in a threatening way, and I completely deny that. I've never been threatening to my family, and I've certainly never assaulted any members of my family. Well,
it seems to me, in hindsight, trying to make sense of this, it seems to me like, I think I mentioned to you by email, but when would it be true to say sometimes you might want your own space, you might not really want your parents
the thing is, I've not lived with my parents since 2009. So for the past 5 years, I've not ever actually lived with my parents. So the idea that I can go to their house and assault them, and then that they basically let somebody into their house to assault them, that idea is nonsense. I no longer live with my parents.
Yeah.
So the idea that I've been carrying out any kind of violent behaviour whatsoever, or that I'm a threat to the safety of myself or other people, that idea is nonsense. Okay,
so but have they felt, or in particular your mother, as she felt I don't need to say protective, but has she made efforts to does she want to know that you're all right, or does she
my mother and father have basically not. They've contacted me only once. I think they've come to visit me once or twice in the 2 months that I've been sectioned off in the Newsom Centre. But on the whole, they're not contacting me. They're not ringing me, and they don't really come to visit me that often.
What I mean is actually since you moved out of their place, how much contact did you have with them?
It varies. I have an on-off relationship with my family. So sometimes there are long time periods when I don't have any contact with my family, and then sometimes sometimes we go for a weekly visit to the restaurant. Basically, I don't visit their house, or I stopped visiting their house. We basically go for a weekly visit to like KFC or to a public place where we can eat at the restaurant.
Right, okay, and that's been like a regular pattern for the last, I don't know, since you've been...
It's an on-off pattern. There have been times, like for a few stretches, maybe for a few months, that we have weekly meetings at a restaurant in order to just have a family meal. Just me, my father and my brother. Very rarely my mother, because my mother works too much.
All right, okay. Because I was under the impression that maybe it was like your mother was really worrying that they couldn't get through.
She's not worrying. My mother's basically mad. What you have to realize about my mother is she's basically lied to my community psychiatric nurse, basically saying that I've been carrying out acts of assault against members of my family. And all the time my mother's basically been communicating in secret, I'll repeat that again, my mother's been communicating in secret behind my back to my community psychiatric nurse, saying that I've been carrying out acts of assault, or saying that I'm a danger to my family and that I'm violent against them, when in actuality I'm no danger to my family whatsoever. So my mother has been because my mother's also worked in psychiatric services herself. My mother is a nurse, and part of her job is basically she works in psychiatric services herself, and she knows how the system works. She's basically been communicating behind my back to my community psychiatric nurse to have me sectioned off.
I'm just looking for a motive, why she would. I mean, okay, she may.
My mother's basically. My mother and my father were basically a very strict South Asian family. They have a very backward kind of cultural viewpoint. They're not Western. Mm-hmm. They still believe in arranged marriages. They believe in a very strict, hierarchical, and domineering family model where the parents are superior to the children, and basically the children have to do whatever the parents want. So,
and do you? Would you consider yourself a non-compliant in there? Sometimes do they ask of you what you mean?
Yeah, definitely. Because my family had a plan, which is basically I should get a job, I should get married, and then live the life that they wanted me to live. But because I've not done that, mm-hmm. They're very bitter and very upset, and to the extent that they're willing to lie to psychiatric services in order to get me sectioned off. Yeah,
now that seems more of a motive now. So. So the only thing, because I see it coming up in far of medication and non-compliant, but it seems to me the only thing that you are non-compliant, or you may have been non-compliant with, is some of your parents' expectations or...
My parents were very upset when I moved out of the family home, and even now, my mother, when she came to visit me, my mother said, it's your choice that you decided to live by yourself out in the community, and that's why you've been sectioned off, in order to try and guilt me for having moved or left the family home. So it's very, very clear, it's very, very true.
Yeah,
that
an ultimatum.
My mum in particular, but basically my whole family are upset by the fact that I can live out in the community by myself, live a healthy life, live a happy life without them. They're very, very bitter about this. And they're so bitter that they're willing to use psychiatric services, they're willing to spread mistruths or misrepresent information, misrepresent the truth in order to get me sectioned off and keep me locked up, to show that they've got the power over me, basically. They want me to understand that they want to show me that they have the power to have me sectioned off and have my liberties taken away from me.
Well, there was another interesting...
And let me just say something else. One of the allegations they made was that I stabbed my father in the chest. Now, if you stab somebody in the chest, he obviously has to go to a hospital, and the police would get called and somebody would get arrested. But they're saying no. They're saying that I stabbed my father in the chest, and I'm basically saying to everybody who mentions this allegation against me, show me the proof, show me the stab wound. I know my father doesn't have a stab wound in the chest because I never stabbed him.
Yeah, that's it, exactly. Yeah, and so they refer to this as like a past event, so it's just to try to create
2011. Using past events, even events that have happened back in 2011.
Past allegations. Yeah, they're using past allegations.
Back in 2011, if not further back, to try and justify keeping me detained in 2014. When in actuality, the current status of my mental health is such that I'm capable of living out in the community, and I've been living out in the community for 1.5 years as it is.
Yeah.
Before I was sectioned off, I was living out in the community by myself in my own place for 1.5 years.
Yeah. And before then, even into, how did you cope into when you first moved. Would you say, do you feel that you need any kind of support, like maybe?
Well, I have been cooperating with psychiatric services. So I found my own flat back in January 2013. I basically been keeping myself to myself, being on my best behaviour. I had 2 weekly meetings. One with my community psychiatric nurse, Kathy Ellis, and the other one with my health support worker, whose name is Lee Poyner. So basically, I had two weekly meetings with two separate people from my community forensic team. And the other thing I should say is, on top of that, I even had psychology appointments within the Newsom Centre. I had psychology appointments, and I attended those psychology appointments for at least the first half of the 1.5 years. So we're talking about for at least 3/4 of a year, I attended the psychology appointment when I was given my new flat.
Right.
So I've even been leaving my own house, going all the way to Newsom, to the Newsom Centre, to Seacroft Hospital, to attend psychology appointments on top of the 2 weekly meetings I have with my community forensic team.
How essential do you feel you really needed? How do you feel you'd have been able to cope without all these measures?
Well, obviously, I'm going to have to take medication. So because I've had to admit. I've had to agree with my doctor, the Dr. Easton's diagnosis of schizophrenia. He's basically given me a diagnosis of mild schizophrenia, and so I agree with that diagnosis. And because I agree with that diagnosis, I also have to take medicines.
Yeah.
So
having
the medication delivered to me, I reckon I would have been able to cope pretty much fine by myself. But I have to admit that I've had help from my community psychiatric nurse and from my health support worker, and I'm grateful for that help. But in terms of my ability to cope, I would probably be able to cope without their help. But I still took their help because that was just I was never given a choice in the matter.
I understand that, yeah. But you're of the opinion that even without that, the support of the community mental health and the psychology appointments or whatever, you feel that you'd have been able to just function perfectly well in the community.
I would be able to cope, yes.
Brilliant, yeah. And as we know, the story about the medication, that was part of the deal. So one of the claims is that they're frightened now that you will not take your medication and that you'll
That's nonsense, because for 1.5 years I've been out in the community and they've been happy with the idea that I've been taking my medication during that 1.5 years. So now they're suddenly turning around and saying, we don't believe that you're taking your medications, or we don't feel confident that you're taking your medications, even though for 1.5 years I've been taking my medicines.
That's right, yeah.
I've been living out in the community. If they start saying that I can't live out in the community, I'll just turn around and say to them, look, I spent 1.5 years living out in the community by myself.
Yeah.
Taking my medication.
Yeah. And so I know they've tried to make the case in the notes that there's been a few times where you've not been non-compliant or difficult around, or forgetful around taking your medication on a couple of occasions.
Well, nobody's perfect, so there might be 1 or 2 occasions, like in a month or something, where somebody forgets to take their medication. But on the whole, I've been taking my medication.
Yeah, good on you.
And the only time they stopped, there was one time about 2 weeks, 1 or 2 weeks before I got sectioned off on the 1st of July 2014, there was one time when Lee Poyner, who's my health support worker, didn't deliver the medication. And the reason he didn't deliver the medication is because we had an appointment time.
Yeah.
And the appointment was on something like the 25th of June, Wednesday the 25th of June at 3:30 p.m. And my mobile phone had broken. My mobile phone was not working.
Yeah.
So I was not able to make that appointment time in order to receive my medications, because I was out repairing my mobile phone.
Yeah.
What he should have done is he should have left a note through my door, basically to rearrange an appointment time for the medication. But he did not do that.
No, and you were sectioned quite shortly after that time as well, wasn't you?
I was sectioned quite shortly after that time. I was also, I've been told, and I was also obviously sectioned a week after going to the Stop the War Coalition demo, and I was told by Dr. Kumar at the Priory Hospital in Darlington that somebody from London made a phone call to somebody in Leeds, and the result of that phone call was that I got sectioned off.
Now that brings me to one more thing. There's 2 accounts in the report about Parliament or something like that, and one of them talks about it's documented about Parliament, and then the other report says that you had said to your brother shortly after.
The report says that I think the report says that I've threatened to poison my brother.
Yeah, it says that as well, and it says
I deny that. Obviously, I've not threatened to poison my brother, and I've not threatened. I've not got any poison.
But I just wondered, did you mention to your brother before you went down to London that you were going to London, or?
No, I didn't mention. I did mention to my brother. I think after I went to Parliament, I told him that I had been to Parliament, but not before.
Okay, well, so now I'm wondering now, alright, so you told him that you've been to Parliament. Now, what I'm thinking now, right, if it could be a possibility, I mean, there's one interpretation where you could have been under surveillance and they've got you going to London, but then there's another interpretation where your brother's gone back to your parents in a kind of a whatever, and says, oh, it's London, Parliament, London, and then they've got in contact with Kathy Ellis and says, oh, London.
I don't think that's true, and the reason, well, that could be a possibility, but I don't think that that's true, because I was definitely told by Dr. Kumar of the Priory Hospital within the first week after I had been sectioned off on the 1st of July, so we're talking maybe between the 1st of July to the 7th of July, that somebody from London made a phone call to somebody in Leeds, my community mental health team in Leeds. But basically, there's a clear link which I feel shows that that London probably London Metropolitan Police or some security, somebody from London Police has basically said, Andy Birdi's gone to London. We're concerned about him and section him off.
Well, remember this: when your tribunal hearing does come up, do reiterate. Well, don't listen to me, right? I mean, don't take what I say, but don't feel frightened to reiterate these beliefs. They're not unreasonable to have. Because now I think they might be trying to play on the fact that, oh God, it's
They may be trying to say that I'm a paranoid schizophrenic and that I'm talking about conspiracy theories of people from London making phone calls to somebody in Leeds in order to get me sectioned off. When they're allowed to say that, but it's not true, because I'll just say, look, Dr. Kumar told me. I'm just telling you what Dr. Kumar told me.
Absolutely, and you know, and it's not. I don't feel it's unreasonable, you know, to.
It's not unreasonable, especially given in my report. In my report, it says that I've been known to the counter-terrorist or anti-terrorist branch within. It says in the report that I'm known to the counter-terrorist or anti-terrorist branch, but they decided not to press charges against me because of my mental health, my mental illness.
Yeah, and I also.
I mean, that's bollocks, because I doubt that even if I had a mental illness, that they would not have pressed charges. The bottom line is there was never any case against me with which you could accuse me of being a terrorist. So the counter-terrorist branch had basically had me referred to them because I presume I'm an ethnic minority and I was exhibiting some strange behaviour, and I fitted the profile. I probably fitted the profile of what they were expecting of a terrorist.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Coming from an ethnic minority background and all.
Oh yeah, and I mean, I've doing the other sideline work on looking at the prevent scheme and the channel and the mapper. I mean, there's a hell of a lot of investment gone into this racial profiling type thing and communicating with the police, communicating with other sectors of the public, whether it's hospitals or fire brigades or whatever other public churches.
Darren, do you know how long we've been speaking for now?
No, wait a minute. I'll tell you in a minute. It'll tell me on here. It will tell me in here. Wait a minute. Hold on.